Well, hello my friends, I'm back with something a little different. I have a print and play here, and the reason why is because over at Board Game Geek they have started the 10th annual Solitaire print and play contest. These are games that are just submitted by anyone who has an idea. The requirement is you can print it out and you can play it solo, which is kind of right up my alley. I think there are about, I want to say like 22 or so of these. They're currently in development, all right? So every game right now has a link on Board Game Geek with a discussion going on, and the designers are involved in that. So you can download their game, play it, give them feedback. If you like, you can have a dialogue with them. You can follow a game you're interested in, see how it's sort of changing, how the rules are changing, the upgrading, the cards, all that cool stuff. And then at the end, around, I think the end of October, they're going to open it up for voting, so everyone can vote on what game they thought was the best. And there's a bunch of different categories, overall best game, and then a bunch of subcategories. And I got contacted by, I think it was Matt. He has a channel called One Player. I'll link it below. And his idea was to get some people interested to showcase these games a little bit and put out some videos showing these really cool print and play solitaire games. So Matt's doing it over at One Player, and another gentleman, Viselko, I believe is how you say his name. I'll link him down below as well. He's also going to be putting out print and play videos. We're going to try and divide these games up and see how many of these we can cover. And so I'm not sure when we'll be releasing them, sort of as we get them done. But we'll link back and forth to each other. So between the three of us, you can get a pretty good idea of what's out there in this contest, and if there's anything maybe you're interested in following along with. In the past, I think Haze Island, was one that came out of here, and Black Sonata was another one that started in this contest and went on to bigger and greater things. It's just a fun way to explore new games for free. Some of these are even on Tabletopia, so if you don't even want to print them out, you can play them online, which I think is also really cool. So I believe One Player, Matt, he picked, the first game was called 22 Offerings, and I thought this was really cool. I actually thought about doing this one. You use a tarot card deck. You use both the major and minor arcana. So you use an entire tarot card deck, and the designer has built a game around a tarot card deck, which I think is really neat. So he's gonna have the video up. That's going to be his first one. And then Viselko is doing one called Mega Blast, which also looks awesome. It's a solo deck building game, and it's based on the shoot 'em up video games of the 80s and 90s. Think like Centipede, when all the things are falling and you have to like move back and forth and shoot them before they make it down the board, or computer screen, whatever you're used to. That's the one he picked to start with as well. Also looks like a lot of fun. So check them out if you're interested in either of those. The one I picked is called Lightyears from Home. The reason I picked it is because you play the entire game with a deck of cards that you hold in your hand. How cool is that? So this is how much table space you need. And the game is about flipping, rotating, and moving the cards in hand order. So there is no tabletop involved. There's no components other than these little pieces of paper. It is at its heart a storytelling game, so there's no victory points, there's no real win conditions. It's more along the lines of a choose your own adventure type of a deal, where you live out a story. And what's neat is right now the current designer, he has up the first, what he calls act. So it's this first set of cards, and then he can release a second act and a third act and a fourth act and keep fleshing out the story just by printing out these very simple cards, which I think is a really neat mechanism. So I was drawn to this particular game, Lightyears from Home, because of the small space in which you play. So you hold it all in your hand. I like the idea that it was a storytelling game and it was component light. So this is a very sort of different feel, maybe, than most games that I am used to. So the game itself is one page of instructions. He gives you a whole page of examples of play, which is very nice. And I think it ended up being 6 pages that I printed out, because I did not double side mine. I did 6 front side, and then I ended up putting them back to double side my card. So if you printed double-sided, I think you could get away with, I think, 3 or maybe even just 4 pieces of paper. So this is a very resource light game, which is very cool. And what are you doing in this game? What is this game about? All right. So Lightyears from Home begins with the setup that Earth has been completely stripped of resources. Population growth has exponentially outpaced food and water until the planet is little more than an empty husk. Nations fight vicious upending war over what little resources remain. With no hope remaining on the surface, some countries have been searching for new hope among the stars. Yes, space exploration. Thanks to new breakthroughs in n-dimensional space travel, it's now possible to cross light years in a matter of months. You are the captain of the Solitude, of course, a small ship put together by a coalition of a dozen ally nations, built with the last of their stockpiled raw materials and sent across the galaxy to form a functioning, sustainable colony. The planet you're heading for is livable, but aside from that, you know nothing, and you've been given no guidance other than this: if you fail, humanity is doomed. Very, what is that? Battlestar Galactica, right? Okay, so then there are beginning instructions. So this is definitely sort of a choose your own adventure. We're going to be out there on our ship trying to colonize this planet, and we're either going to make it or break it. I think there's a couple different endings among these cards, so there is a limited sort of replayability to this act, right? There is one sort of overarching plot, and then when you finish it, you can replay it to see if you get a different ending. But really, the whole idea, I think, behind this game is the fact that you could put out, multiple acts to sort of increase and grow your storyline. So what the designer currently has right now is the first act available. And I think the best way to look at this is actually the instructions do a pretty good job of sort of card breakdown. And the cards have a number and a letter. The letters correspond A, B, C, and D. And that's the front north, front south, flip it over, that's right, A and B, flip it over. Back north would be C, back south would be D, right? So the 4 letters correspond to the front and back zones of the card. You also have a little tick under here, and this is how he's currently representing the act. So this is an Act 1 card, so you can add as many ticks as you have act. You have some resources that this particular card can generate. You have the text of what's happening. So this is sort of the current event, if you will. And then you're given your choices. How do you want to resolve this event? The idea of the game is that you kind of pick what you want to do, and you then read sort of the results, right? So you can kind of game this a little bit by picking the best answer, but because it's coded, it's supposed to be pick what you want to do and then see the result, not pick the best result and then see what you want to do. But that's, it's a solitaire game, so there is a little bit of, hey, don't cheat sort of involved in the game. But that's it for the cards. A little bit of iconography up here, an event, how do we want to resolve it? So to start the game, what we're going to need to do is put all these cards in numerical order. 4 goes after 3. And you want to make sure that all the cards are on the A position. So that's 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D. So in order to make sure we're all starting in the right place, we want them to be in numerical order on the A position. Now you can play this, like I said, this game just holding in your hand, but to keep you all from getting motion sickness, I think I'm probably going to stand these cards out on the table so they're not quite as wiggly for you. But once we get them in number order, we can read the first event and begin. Your first task, once you've settled, is to send a small team back to Earth to report on your success. Unfortunately, the ship was severely damaged on your landing, and it will take time and effort to repair all the systems required for the trip back. All right, so here are my choices. Do I want to begin the repairs immediately or scrap my ship for parts? So which one would I like to do? And I think let's begin repairs immediately. I think it's important that Earth knows that we made it. They are, after all, relying on us. We are humanity's last hope. So now that I've picked this, I see what do I have to do to select this option. And it tells me to arrow B, comma, a little flippy arrow. What the heck is that? All right, let's check. Okay, so we know that our event told us to arrow B. So it says reorient card number 2 to position B. Okay, so for us, we're going to say reorient card number. So we're going to take the second card and we're going to change it to position B. So in that case, this is card number 2, set to A right now. So all we're going to do is rotate card number 2 to position B. Easy enough. The next thing it said was this little flippy arrow. Flippy arrow was rotate the event, the current card we're reading, 180 degrees. That's easy enough. Event card 1, we rotate 180 degrees. So now I have 2 cards right now set to position B. Second card and our event card. Our event card also had a little shuffle symbol on it. So once we're done with that, we're going to shuffle our cards. So we're going to lose the order. We're not going to shuffle in any way that's going to change front to back or upside down. All right. So this isn't what I would call a riffle shuffle. This is a, what would you call one of this? Orientation respected shuffle, maybe is how you would call this one. So we have shuffled the cards. I suppose I could do a better job, but for now, this is good enough. And once we've done with the shuffle, we're going to read the top card and proceed. The job assignment at camp are doled out similar to how they were on the ship. Everyone does their fair share. Assignments are randomly created every week, but every settler will be assigned every job at some point. However, some of the settlers complain the system is actually unfair because it leads to skilled workers doing unskilled labor. Doctors are sent to chop trees, engineers are forced to cook, and soldiers are told to run chemical analysis. This sounds terrible. So, do we want to keep doing this? Everyone does their share, or do we want to assign jobs based on skills? No. I think we're going to let's assign jobs based on skills. So we have this little up and down arrow. Let's see what that means. All right, this is an easy one. Flip the event card along its short edge. Okay. This is my event card. This is my short edge. So I'm going to flip it along my short edge. Fabulous. Okay, once you've resolved the event, you're going to put it to the back of the stack and keep going. And we're going to keep resolving events and putting them back on the stack until we either hit a failure or we hit a shuffle symbol. So that's going to have an effect. We're going to find out what that is later. All right, our next event. The first thing built after you crash landed on the planet was some rudimentary shelters. Built quickly and recklessly, the bungalow-esque shelters form a sort of inner perimeter around the camp, with guard towers and defenses outside the perimeter, and most of the other buildings inside the perimeter. The living arrangements are mostly 4 to a shelter, with some lucky saps only bunking 3 to a shelter, and with yourself having a shelter all to yourself. All right, so do we tear them down? Are we going to try and upgrade our shelters, or do we just carry on? You know what? We've just landed. We have barely even been here. I feel like rudimentary shelters right now are okay. I don't think we need to upgrade. As long as everybody's in something, I think we're okay. So I'm going to carry on, and that's this little sideways arrow. Sideways arrow says move event to the back of the deck. All right, so we're not going to reorient it. We're not going to do anything. We're going to keep this as that is. That makes sense. So maybe there's a chance later in the game for us to upgrade our housing, but for now, our housing remains as it is. So, to the back of the deck it goes. Next event. The latest inventory count shows a discrepancy between the amount of rations brought into storage and the amount remaining in storage. The stores aren't guarded very well or at all, so any hungry soul could have walked in and whisked away an extra meal or two. The amount taken isn't monumental, but it isn't exactly negligible either. question everyone, post guards, let it be. Ooh, interesting, interesting. Question everyone, post guards, let it be. All right, so people are a little hungry. It isn't monumental. I'm feeling like I'm a pretty laid back ruler here. Let's say I want to pick let it be. All right, so we're going to see our first excuse me, resource icon. So in order to choose this icon, I have to have some food available. All right, if I order to be generous with the loss of food, I need to have some food. And this is where having the cards fanned out helps. So what'll happen is we're gonna look at our cards and see where is our first apple. How much food do we actually have? All right, and you can see what's happening here already. Okay, so maybe I can't afford to be generous because the way my colony is right now, we're really low on food. In fact, oh my gosh, there's our first. Okay, so we don't have a lot of food, okay? And so once my cards are spread out like this, or held in my hand, spread open, you'll be able to see what your colony is capable of producing. And my colony right now is only capable of producing 2 apples. We have a lot of health, we have a couple of science, we have a couple investigation, we have a little bit of little beaker symbols, but we only have 2 apples right now. We only have 2 foods coming out a turn, all right? If you're ever required to spend a resource, that resource must fall before your critical shuffle event. Any resource in front of the shuffle event has been produced, it's sitting in a warehouse, it's ready for you to use. Anything behind a critical shuffle event means we have the capabilities of making it. It hasn't been made yet, all right? So when you fan your cards off, you gotta kind of keep your eye on where this little critical reshuffle card falls. Unfortunately for us, it's really high up in the deck, so we just don't have a lot of resources right now. So if we look back at our event cards here, if I want to let it be, I will lose an apple that's been produced. I don't have any that's been produced. And this card is gonna flip around to the bottom of the deck. And that's what I'm gonna do for now. I think we're just gonna let it be. I don't have a lot of apples, so okay, let's say, okay, now that I look at this, let's say maybe I want to post a guard, right? Let's say I've actually checked, we're not making a lot of food. I don't want any more slipping out. If I decide to post guards, I have a requirement here. 7C, flip it. And what that says is my card number 7 must be showing the C orientation, and it's not, all right? My card 7 is still stuck at A, so I don't have any guards available right now. These people are busy making food. I can't lose them to make guards. So even if I wanted to post guards, I can't. All right, so let's say I want to question everyone. I have 1 gear symbol, investigation symbol, colon. So that means in order to investigate, I must spend a gear resource. Again, my shuffle symbol's here. We have some investigation available eventually, but not right now at this moment. So this kind of makes sense thematically, right? We've just landed, we're brand new, we haven't established guards, we haven't established any sort of investigators. There's not much I can do about this pilfering right now, except let it slide, send it to the back of the deck, deal with it later. All right, so it's kind of a subtle distinction here, but this let it be 1 apple, there isn't a colon after it, and that little colon means it's a must-have. In order to do it, you must spend. This little line of text says if you have it, you must spend it. If you don't have it, that's okay, just put it to the back. So we're gonna slide event 13A to the back. We're not gonna reorient it or anything like that. And this brings up our critical event. So we're going to resolve this and reset and reshuffle our cards. Ship repairs are coming along, but the added stress, okay, so this is kind of cool. So we got to the card that we flipped, and we decided ship repair was going to be our plot line. So now we get to see, how does that resolve? We didn't scrap our ship, we repaired it. So what sort of tangent did our story take? Ship repairs are coming along, but the added stress is clearly taking its toll on the settlers. You don't know how much longer they can go on like this, but that ship needs to get back soon before the home world suspects the worst. Yes, that's why I chose repair. I was worried about the home world. There's a cost though. There's a cost on my people now. So what do I want to do about that? Do I want to just scrap it? Do we want to say, screw the home world? This is too much of a strain on our people. Do we just want to give them a break? Say, guys, take a break. We'll get back to the ship later. Do I just want to slow down work but finish it? Or do I want to finish it recklessly, right? Do I just want to say, let's go, let's make this happen? This is interesting because in order to finish cautiously, I have to spend 2 resources. But I'm at the reshuffle time, so there's no way I could have 2 resources. Interesting. So I don't know what that means, to be honest. It might be a typo. Maybe I'm not reading these cards right. This is when the fact that it's a work in process makes you kind of wonder what's going on there. But according to what I see, I can't finish this because I don't have those resources available. Have to think about that one. But anyway, I kind of liked the idea of just give the workers a break. This is the one I would pick. Normally, I feel like, hey, we got to get this done. I know you're tired. Let's just take a break, but keep working at it. And we know what this means, right? We're going to take the 5th card that's currently here. We're going to change it to position B. We're going to send it to the back of the deck, and then we're going to reshuffle. So let's find out. Card in the 5th position. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Card in the 5th position is going to go to B. Perfect. This tells us to reshuffle our hand, all right? And again, we want to do that in a way that doesn't change the orientation of any of our cards. All right. Oh, all right, so this is cool. So we can see that our reshuffle icon is way down here. So I'm gonna say quite a bit of time has passed. Our colony has made quite a bit of resources. So I can tell right now, this is gonna be a much longer turn before we hit this critical, reset mark. So we would be able to kind of get through a lot of these cards, which is really fun. But the card on top, our current event, is 15A. The settlers on guard duty have been known to take pot shots at the local wildlife. The reasons vary from hunting to protection to plain boredom, but your scientists are very unhappy about it. One of the causes for the homeworld's current situation was the lack of regard for the ecosystem, they warn, and you shouldn't treat this new planet's wildlife as a disposable resource. I completely agree with this. Yes. We are going to stop interfering with nature. You dead animals won't hurt. No. Of course, have these people learned nothing? We're going to flip our card. This little arrow tells us to flip it along its long edge. We've resolved it. And we're going to slide it to the back. And we can tell, right, that we've had an effect because we went from a card with no symbols to a card with symbols. So when we get back to it, we're going to be able to read and see what happened that changed our colony. But for now, we're going to move on to the next one. The settlers have developed a sort of currency among them, which they use to trade food, favors, and various job assignments, as well as to gamble in the evening. A number of arguments and at least one brawl have broken out over these things, as people have been accused of crimes ranging from cheating at cards to counterfeiting coins. It's not yet clear how people can tell the difference. Ooh, this is an interesting one. Confiscate the coins, post guards, don't get involved. Okay, I feel like, you know what? I feel like this is a sign that we need to establish our own currency. So I'm going to say, I'm going to confiscate the coins. I'm going to end this. I'm going to be the parent. I'm going to take away the toy that's causing the problem. So we have this cool little rotator sign, and it says rotate the event 80 degrees. So we're just going to rotate it, send it to the back of the line as we have resolved it. And because there's only one act and I don't want to spoil spoil how it all resolves. I think I'm going to stop there. I think these are probably just going to be short little videos, little niblets to give you a taste of these games, because I want to encourage you to go and print them and play them yourself. I don't want all the joy and the fun just to be on my end. I think this is a neat little storytelling game. I don't know what the replayability will be like. I don't know if it'll get boring. I don't even know how it's going to end. But there is clearly, you could play it and be a dictatorship. You can play it and be more of a socialist. You can play it and be a democracy, right? And so you can take on different personas to build a different colony, to build a different settlement. And if you do end up, if the designer does end up sort of, offering different acts, even just setting up this system would kind of be a cool way for even fan-made scenarios. If you want to come up with your own story, if he's already set up how the rules play and how symbols work, man, you could adapt this to just about anything. You could reskin it to whatever you want. So I think as a game engine, I think that Lightyears from Home is kind of a cool idea of a way to give other people a chance to design their own story generation game. Definitely has that feel of choose your own adventure, and having a sort of vision for how you would develop your own civilization. That's a cool draw, right? That's a cool draw. I picked this one because it looked a little bit different from some of the other games, and I think that's what makes these print and play contests so unique, is that you can get a very different feel of what is a standard deck builder sort of out there in the industry. I think I just checked. It is, I believe, up on Tabletopia right now. Go to the Board Game Geek link. It'll have the latest rules, the latest printouts. The designer, I should say, is Austin Charlie, and he is very active on his thread. He's already incorporated some great suggestions and revamped how the icons work, how many cards he has. You can tell he has a great idea, and he's looking for help for play testers, for just general feedback of what works for you and what doesn't work for you. Get involved with the game. If you're looking for something that you want to love, well, this is your chance to do it. So this is my first entry in this little print and play Solitaire. Head over to One Player. I'll link everybody below who's doing this. You can see what they're doing, and we're going to do our best to cover as many of these games as we can. So for now, this is Lightyears from Home by Charlie Austin. I hope you check it out and come back for another print and play soon.